welcome back. And we are back on in the month of May with another gadget report. After these 2 weeks of break, here I am to talk about airlines and comparing services, comparing different aspects that people consider when looking for a flight, and sometimes they choose an airline without having or taking into account things that may be very important. I know I did that, especially in my first trip, and I have already spoken about this and written about this. So today and throughout the month of May, I will be talking about things that we really should consider when we look for flights and choose an airline. I think there are a few things that we should consider, and if we do, we may have a much better outcome. And that's what I believe. So stick around for another gadget report. Let's talk gadgets. So let's talk gadgets. And in this month of May, we are talking gadgets. We are talking about choosing flights, choosing airlines, and the common mistakes that we all do. I know I did. I think we all do. And how we can see things and actually look at things differently when we choose our flights. So today we are going to make that comparison between pricing and services, because sometimes we do not make a connection between the two, and we don't make a balanced decision between these two, and sometimes the services may be disregarded, and then we may have a terrible experience. I know I did that. Even though in my case it wasn't fully knowing about the whole thing. However, it's something we should take in account. First of all, when we look for flights, and this is something that we all do, we always look for pricing, and we do compare in terms of pricing, and we see which airlines are offering the lowest pricing at the moment. And obviously something that we all do. We're not billionaires. We need to consider pricing because, let's face it, a flight is usually quite expensive unless you are just flying locally. If it's a domestic flight, or if it's one of those specials that sometimes airlines have, flights are usually expensive, and the price of a holiday overseas is usually expensive. So you need to take in account all of this, and costs. Obviously, it's one of the things that we all consider first because of the weight it has on our trip. However, let's think about it. A bad experience may be very costly as well. So we should think about the things in another way. Service and ethics are also important. And if we are going to choose an airline just because it offers us a cheaper price, but then we will end up in a very confusing airport. The staff of that airline may not be friendly, or the service aboard is absolutely atrocious, and even the standards to what human rights is concerned, it's very low for that airline or for the country where that airline comes from. Then you will end up with a very, very sour taste in your mouth. So you will think, well, yeah, I paid cheap, but this is what I got. And attention, I'm not saying, be aware that I'm by no means I'm saying that all airlines that offer you a lower price are going to be cheap and nasty, the usual slogan that people throw around, because that's not quite the truth. And I don't believe that just because they offer you a lower price, they're going to be horrible and you're going to have an atrocious experience with them, because that's not my belief at all. What I believe we should always do is do our homework and study a little bit about that airline, see the reviews, see what other travelers have said about that airline, what other passengers have experienced, see the standards of that airline, see what they stand for, see which country they come from, what are the standards in that particular country, what you may encounter in the airports of that particular country, in the hubs that that particular airline uses in there. Then you will be able to make an assessment of the whole experience and then make an informed decision rather, regardless of just being the cheaper price. Sometimes it might be the cheaper price. The airline that offers you a cheaper price, it's also a very good airline, and it's worth trying. It's really good to know that. But sometimes it may actually be a not seen as cheap and nasty airline, but then you may have a bad experience. So be aware of that. As I said, there's no doubt pricing is important, but a bad experience can be costly too. Bad service, confusing airports, airlines with lower ethical values, and you know there will be some, and you know that in some parts of the world, ethical values and what we regard as ethics and human rights and all that, all these values that we cherish so much may not be applied in certain parts of the world and in certain airlines. So therefore, we should look for this as well. I always do. And obviously, we should choose a combination of all these factors, pricing and all of this. Are the hubs where this airline is going to stop, those airports, are they confusing? Are they easy to navigate? Because sometimes you may be, you may find a flight that doesn't give you hardly any waiting times, and it sounds like a direct flight and it's very easy, etc., etc. But then, if there's a delay in the flight and you get late on that flight, then you may not speak the language properly, or you may not be fluent in English, and therefore you cannot navigate the airport as easier as if you could speak the language. You may end up in trouble, and when you end up in trouble in a foreign country, it may be really, really hard to navigate. So we need to bear this in mind. Are we fluent, for example, in English, which is a language that usually you can speak in all airports because there will be someone who can answer you? Which routes are you considering? Which countries are you visiting? Check all the airports. Check all the routes of all airlines. Check the reviews. And then make an informed decision. I believe service is very important. Because at the end of the day, for example, if you are going to do a trip, let's imagine like I did, from Lisbon to Sydney, you're going to be stuck in an aircraft for more than 24 hours. So it's one full day, more than one full day, that you spend inside an aircraft. And if you choose a bad airline, if you choose an airline that is going to give you a bad experience, it's going to be a horrible time for you, and you're going to feel really bad because you just stuck in there. You cannot go anywhere. You need to do the trip, and there's nothing else you can do. So if we choose beforehand, if you really consider all our things and everything that can go wrong, I always think it's not being paranoid. It's just if you think everything that can go wrong before you leave, chances are you have everything planned. And if something goes wrong, which is quite unlikely, you are already prepared to face the trouble. That's what I think. So think about it, do your homework, and enjoy your next travel. And that's all for today. I hope you really enjoyed this first gadget report of the month of May, and I hope it give you a little bit of an insight of some mistakes that we sometimes do. I know I did in my first trip. I chose a very good airline, which was KLM, and I have already spoken about this. And I ended up with flights in Malaysia Airline, which at the time was really atrocious. I hated it. The food wasn't good. The service was appalling. Kuala Lumpur Airport was the most confusing airport I've ever been in my life. And as I said, and I keep on saying, this was more than 10 years ago. So I am not sure if this is still the case today, but it was in 2003, and it was just atrocious. So sometimes a little homework and studying a little bit of what may lie ahead for you may save you from a lot of disappointments. So tell me your experience. If you have had an atrocious experience with an airline, just please leave us a comment below and let me know what happened. Or if you actually chose the cheaper airline and you just risked the cheaper airline. Everyone was saying don't go with that airline because it's cheap, etc. But you decided to go and had a wonderful experience, because those types of things happen as well, even though people have that idea that it cannot happen, it does. So let us know your experience, and put a like on the video and subscribe the channel with a little click on the bell so you get a notification of a new gadget report every week. Before I go, I would like to thank you all for watching. See you next week. Have a good one. Bye.